tax implications on a seller on a short sale?
Again, there's two very different tax implications depending on what type of property it is. The old occupancy test for capital gains. Remember capital gains when actually people made money on the sale of their property?
Right.
It seems so long ago.
Yeah.
But under 121 in the Internal Revenue Code, if you've owned your primary residence for 24 to 60 months before sale, so essentially 2 years of the 5 years preceding sale, as a married couple, you're allowed to exclude the first $500,000 in gain. Single title holders are allowed to exclude the first $250,000 in gain. Now, if you meet that occupancy test at 24 of 60 months, you can exclude your first $1 million in mortgage forgiveness on your primary residence. So if you, Marco, $1.6 million on your house, and
I wish, but go ahead.
and the lender only receives $650,000, you and your wife have no taxation on it because you've met that occupancy period and less than $1 million is forgiven. The rules are dramatically different for investment properties or second homes. Any mortgage debt forgiveness is taxable as ordinary.
So the IRS can come after you if the IRS can come after you for forgiven debt.
What the IRS is not coming after you, you're obligated to report it as income.
Okay.
The bank will issue a 1099-C, which is cancellation of indebtedness income, and you're obligated to pick that up as ordinary income. Now, the caveat there being on investment properties, they're either capital items for you or they're sale of business property, and you can adjust what's called your basis for the money you put in, for improvements and everything. The key is if it is an investment property, or even for your primary residence, the key is that people considering a short sale should consult with their tax advisor to understand how it affects them. And it's really only going to affect them on secondary homes or investment properties. The one caveat to the primary residence that I was talking about, the $1 million in mortgage forgiveness, the IRS does not allow debt forgiveness on money you took out of your house through a refinance, cash out type of refinance.
Right.
So as again, using your $1.6 million you owed, if you initially only owed $1.2 million, but in the heyday took out $400,000 and brought up the indebtedness to 1.6, you would actually have you would pay ordinary income taxes on that $400,000 that was forgiven for a cash out refinance. But it's important for anybody out there considering a short sale to consult with their tax advisor to understand the effects on them. But as we like to say, we don't let the tax tail wag the dog. While the tax might be a profound misery to people to pay phantom income tax on gains they actually never receive, guess what? If it's foreclosed on, you're going to pay them anyway. So you don't get around it by doing a short sale as opposed to a foreclosure. You don't get around the tax implications if your property is foreclosed on. And as we've alluded to before, there are so many benefits of a short sale from a credit standpoint, from actually determining the deficiency, from negotiating with the lender, and psychological and emotional benefits that we would never believe taxes are a reason not to do a short sale.
Okay, say I'm a consumer and I want to consider doing a short sale. And there are maybe some repairs that need to be done to the property. It comes up on an appraisal. The appraiser notates fence is broke, you need to repair the fence. Is it am I responsible as the seller to make those repairs, or does the lender make those repairs? Who's ultimately responsible for having the property in a sellable condition?
Well, the lender is probably not going to make the repairs in a short sale, but the lender, depending on the extent of the repairs, might approve a credit for the borrower to make the repairs. Just because you're doing a short sale does not mean that the lender is not willing to accept less than the net from the contract in order to release the collateral. Meaning they're willing to pay commissions. They're willing to pay closing cost concessions if your FHA borrower needs that. They're willing to have repair items given some limitations and given the strength of the overall contract and the overall deficiency they're receiving. If their deficiency is too high, it's not probably in their best interest to do that. But from the seller's perspective, even though they're selling the property as is, because they cannot guarantee what the lender would do, because everything is subject to third-party approval, doesn't mean that the lender won't be willing to acquiesce to those demands.
Okay. As a short sale attorney, you've been through this many times. How long does this process generally take from start to, if one of our viewers was considering a short sale, what time effect is he looking at for this to get accomplished?
Well, again, it's a hard question to answer in a vacuum. If your consumer is ready with their short sale package, if they have the property listed with a ratified listing agreement and a proper contract, the process can take anywhere from 30 days to 180 days or longer. Now, one of the key determinants on how long a short sale takes is how many mortgages are on the property, how many deeds of trust. If your borrower has one mortgage, it's a lot easier to negotiate than if your borrower has two mortgages, because in most states, if it goes to foreclosure, the second trust lender is going to be wiped out completely.
Okay.
If your property is declined so precipitously in value that if the house was foreclosed on or even on a valid short sale, the second trust really has nothing left for them. Well, that's the tougher negotiation, because you have to tell the bank that has the $100,000 equity line on your property, we're prepared to offer you $3,000 or $5,000.
If I were going through a short sale process, would I have to contact my lender first before entering into a contractual agreement to sell the home? Or can I just call my agent, go ahead, start that process, and then notify my lender that, hey, I'm going through the short sale process, here's the contract, what do you think?
You can do it either way. I always think it's best if the consumer reaches out to their lender, asks for the loss mitigation department, asks them for the short sale package that they have. Every loss mitigation department has a pre-printed package, which would give your consumer the idea of the forms they need to put together. So that's a really great time management thing. If your consumer reaches out, it also alerts the bank that the client's considering it. So if the client's gone delinquent on it, it might forestall some of the harassing phone calls they're getting about being delinquent or about going into foreclosure. The quicker the borrower works with their bank, with their agent, with us or whomever they choose to help them negotiate, the more likelihood they will have success. The reason for that is the earlier in the process they begin, the better negotiating that can occur on their behalf. If you're a few days away from foreclosure, and you know that by the substitute trustee letters you've been getting and the amount of harassing phone calls, or even if you've seen your property listed in the Post or the Washington Examiner or Times, that it's going to the courthouse steps in 3 weeks, because it will be there when it's a couple weeks away.
Really?
You have less opportunity to negotiate. Whatever the bank offer or they give you, you probably have to take it, or you're going to walk yourself into foreclosure. But if you're early in the process, you're in control.
Okay.
Our belief is that the earlier you get started, once you've made that decision that this is the right thing to do for you, the more likelihood you have to control a favorable outcome.
What does it mean to have bank approval or third-party approval? You're going to hear that term a lot when you're going through the short sale process. What does that mean exactly, Lawrence?
What that means is that the bank has agreed to allow the property to be sold through a short sale. As he spoke about in the beginning, a short sale is when the bank or banks receive less than the amount that is owed to them currently. So the approval letter will give details. We accept the property on 1234 Main Street for a contract price of $300,000 with a commission of 5% or $15,000 $4,000 in additional closing costs, with a net to our bank of no less than $281,000. That is what an approval letter is. The importance of approval letter is twofold. One, from the short seller's perspective, you know most of the work is done in that sense. You can be preparing to pack up, to move, because you know that the bank's accepted the collateral and you're not going to be foreclosed on. More importantly, from the other perspective, is your borrower is going to need that approval letter to get their loan approved.
Lawrence, thanks a lot for taking the time
Hey,
to be on our
Mark,
show.
thanks.
I know
It was a
you're busy.
pleasure.
I know you're busy.
Thank you.
Remember, if you would like to apply for a mortgage loan or you just have some questions in regards to mortgage loan, please visit our website at markrigney.org. If you have any questions about short sales, please visit Lawrence's website at www.neweratitle.com. Our email info is listed on the screen below. We will read and answer some of your questions on our next show. On behalf of my friend and colleague Lawrence Tucker, thank you for watching Mortgage Solutions with Mark Rigney. We will see you next time.